You only have one life to live, so get the most out of it. On Good Life, Great Life, join me, Brian Highfield, and my guests as we share success stories, habits, mindsets, and lessons learned by successful people. These lessons are not taught in schools, but are critical for getting ahead in life. Whether you want a successful business or career, optimal health, or a lifestyle that most people just dream of, Good Life, Great Life has you covered. After retiring from a successful corporate career in my 40s, I founded multi-million-dollar businesses in the sports and healthcare arenas. Now, I help everyday people maximize their lives and speak regularly at seminars, on podcasts, and radio shows to share principles on the topics of health, wealth, and happiness. Don't let a good life get in the way of a great life. Join me today on Good Life, Great Life. Well, welcome to another episode of Good Life, Great Life. Today's guest is Mr. Chris McCoy. So Chris is the founder and CEO of Haven Lighting. Welcome to the program, Chris.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, we want to understand a little bit more about you and a little bit about your background and what inspired you to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough. My dad was an entrepreneur growing up, and so I was lucky enough to see that window. And one of the things I like to do these podcasts with people and talk to people about it is because I was lucky enough to see that growing up, and I frankly I don't think our education system does a very good job at at showing kids the other side of the world, if you want to say. And so anytime I can talk about it, I love to do it.
Awesome. So you started out, in the corporate world, like most people do. And was there something that happened, or was there an event, or when did you know the timing was right to kind of branch off on your own?
Yeah. So as I said, my father was an entrepreneur, and he sold to private equity, and then retired and hired somebody. They hired somebody else to come in and kind of run that business. They made some acquisitions. I actually started running his original business after he retired, and worked for private equity for several years, running a couple of divisions of that entity. And during that stint, we sold 3 times because that's what private equity does. And honestly, I was starting to think about running a company that could have a longer term vision than just 2 to 3 years. And I was looking forward to being able to make some decisions that were longer term decisions versus 6 month to a year decisions. And so that started coming up in my mind about what, is there the possibility that I could do this? And then I was in a CEO peer group at the time, and I was riding in a car with another entrepreneur on the way to dinner. And because it was in my mind, I asked him, I said, well, what made you take the jump? And his answer changed my life. He said, I was working for Anderson Consulting, which is now Accenture, I believe.
Yeah.
And he said, I was working there and living in an apartment. And he said, I looked in the mirror one day and said, what's my worst case scenario? And he said, I was living it. I could always go back to doing what I was doing before.
Yeah.
And it's so true in many cases, I think, to where you could always, if it doesn't work, the fear of failure is not that bad. And if it doesn't work, you could always go back to doing what you were doing or find something else. And so mentally that day I quit, and I think I ended up quitting my job 3 months later.
Wow. Yeah, it reminds me of the Zig Ziglar quote. It's like, if you don't change something today, then all your tomorrows are going to look like yesterday. And so your friends look in the mirror and saying, okay, I can't go down from this. This is it. So I can only go up, right?
Right. And frankly, it makes it sound worse than it did. I mean, his life wasn't bad at all, but it was true. The answer is I can always go back to doing what I was doing before is I think true in probably most cases.
Yeah, and people are held back by the smallest of fears. Like, what if I do fail? I mean, and again, it's like, what do you have to lose?
Right, that's right. And so mentally at the time, I was at the point in my life where I was in my mid to late 30s, and I knew that if I hit 40, I probably wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so I put that time frame in my life and said, listen, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it. I need to do it now.
Yeah.
So talk about some of those early challenges. What were some of the pitfalls, or what were some of the things that you really had to overcome to get that business up and running?
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge is I think the biggest hurdle, and we see it in a lot of our customers, frankly, is getting over that first hurdle of you are the entire business. You're not. I mean, I think that's the challenge that also isn't talked about a lot is you go from having one job to having 8 jobs. You are the accountant,
Yeah.
you are production, you are sales, you are marketing, you are the entire business. And I think that hurdle is a big one. That hurdle, because you make that initial investment, into starting the business, and then you have to make another one fairly quickly, because it's pretty early on that you have to hire that first, whether it's the first employee or the I'll call it the first non-productive employee that doesn't produce revenue necessarily. You have to hire that first non-productive employee that's an admin kind of person or a salesperson or whatever it is in your business. And that comes out of your paycheck. And so that's a second initial investment that you have to make. And that's a big hurdle, I think, for a lot of people.
So if you're talking to somebody who's thinking about starting a business and they're aspiring to be an entrepreneur, I guess what piece of advice would you want to tell that person? What do you think would help them the most?
And I think tell people. I think it's spreading the word of what you're trying to do. I think that's number one. I am very blessed and honestly astonished every day on how many people actually want to help you and get you started. And I mean, early on, these people had no business buying from us.
Yeah.
Right? They had no business buying from us. But they in some cases they wanted to help. In some cases they wanted to be part of a growing company in the early stages and say, hey, I helped them in the early days. And in some cases, we have a great product. So in some cases they want the product, but that initial connection, I mean, we're 5 to 6 years into this. I still communicate with customer number one. And, because they went out on a ledge early on, with us, those people are treated in our company. Those people are treated immensely well. If they call, with anything, we go, because they helped us so early. They get treated like gold.
And expand on that a little bit, because I mean, relationships and with your customers, and that whole. I guess talk about the importance of that in a business, especially a small business, with your customers, to get repeat business and people coming back to you.
It is. It's immensely important. And those relationships just help build the business they help spread the word.
Yeah.
And word of mouth is I think still today exists and is still big. Not everything is Google PPC and things like that. It's also, at the end of the day, I'm still a firm believer that people buy from people, no matter how big of a sale yesterday we just got back from Eastern Kentucky University. And it's still a people buy from people sale, and it's an immensely different scale from where we started, but and so those relationships matter. I think beyond that, regarding the relationships, the culture that you build in the business around those relationships matter. I mean, everybody we have a mantra around here that if the phone rings and, we sell a lot through professional installation companies, and these guys are in the field, needing help and, as any technician, industry would. And we have a mantra around here that if somebody calls in from the field, you drop everything and answer that call. Now, I don't care what you're doing.
Yeah.
And because they're sitting there, they're on the clock, they're charging their customer, and that response time and those relationships really, really matter. And they're depending on us. And I'm the type of person, out of college, I started in the service industry. So I'm the type of person that if something isn't working correctly, I don't sleep. And so that culture is just innate in our business. And I think it's highly important.
Yeah, and and I was going to get to that as a culture, because so many guests we have in this program talk about the importance of culture in there, and that's and I like how you describe that culture, because it really shows the value to not only the end customer, but also your customer, which may be a contractor out there servicing the end customer in that, and they're going to call you back, right? Because they know that when I call, Chris or somebody in his company is going to pick up the phone.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And I think it also helps. I mean, we use it internally. Not it kind of grew from just because that's my personality,
Uh-huh.
but it also helps grow the organization because we have all 5-star reviews on Google. And frankly, 95% of our 5-star reviews on Google are people that had problems.
Mm,
And they call and they give you a review because you know, we use that as, humans want to return favors.
yeah.
Innately, there's several books on that. But if you help them and went overboard to help them, they see that as a favor. And so if you ask them for a favor in return and doing a review, they jump all over it. And it's a huge opportunity. And those Google reviews matter for us.
Yeah, yeah. That's. I mean, that says a lot right there. That most of those 5-star reviews are people who have problems, and so people appreciate that you recognize there's a problem, you fix their problem, and do that. That's pretty cool. And I love
Well,
what you
not only
said.
that, but the people
Yeah.
reading the reviews, those are
Uh-huh.
the reviews they want to read. They don't
Yeah.
want to read necessarily that everything went great and they
Yeah.
never heard from the company. They want to, because that's their biggest fear. What happens
Yeah.
if I have a problem? That's their biggest fear from buying from anybody in any industry, right? What are you going to do when I have a problem? And the answer is right there on Google. We're going to help. We're going to jump overboard and help you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love what you said. That word of mouth is truly the best way to drum up business is word of mouth. And my wife is example of this too, because when we moved to Florida and we're looking for places, she didn't go to Google and look things up. She asked her neighbors, like, well, who do you go to for your
Yeah,
for
that's
your
exactly right.
nails? Who do you go to get your hair done? And just getting people's feedback of who they trust and who they go to goes a long way.
I and you never know where people are going to end up too. I
Hmm.
mean, back when I was working under private equity, we sold a lot to the automotive markets, and and we were trying to get into other markets. Well, during 2007, 2008, there were a lot of layoffs in the automotive industry. All
Hmm.
those people went in the medical. All those engineers ended up in the medical field, and then all of a sudden, we started selling a lot in the medical field because they had a great experience with our business from the automotive field and brought us effectively into the medical field. And so it enables us to diversify. Some of it strategic, but some of it by accident because of that the nature of the markets.
What are some current I won't call them problems, but what type of improvements are you looking to your business right now in terms of either growth or internal processes, or what's going on inside?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are really trying to proceduralize our um, as we have grown. We were a fairly flat organization, um, and we're making that leap from a flat organization to be a tiered organization, which we're kicking and screaming doing
Yeah.
it. Which is kind of the second biggest. The second, the first was to hire that first layer. Then the second one is to get a layered organization, and including myself. The whole organization is pushing hard against it, and we're going over that tier now. But it's really causing us to look at proceduralizing our communication and the way everybody in the organization presents themselves to the customer, and what you wear when you go visit the customer, and how you communicate and the bullet points that you cover. And we want you to individualize that communication to your style, but we also want you to follow the structure of the 7 bullet points that we have on the page, and make sure when you get there you cover, here are the things that I'm going to do today. And there's a structure in that communication that frankly we were small enough before that you didn't really need that structure. But now that we've got more employees and we've got this culture has to be more proceduralized and documented.
Yeah.
And training is important. I mean, before I could just take a new employee and say, come with me, I'll show you how to do it. And now we need to, that we're working on all those procedures to more standardize that process.
Yeah. And that's it's a big undertaking to go, like you said, from a flat organization to a tiered organization, because you don't want to lose that culture. You don't want to, anything to fall through the cracks as you go from this to this.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you read all the books and the business books, and they tell you that it's a hard jump, and you're like, yeah, okay, it can't be that hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And according to the sign behind you, you're building something kick-ass there too, right? So
yeah, that's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite posters that we have around here.
You were talking about something reminded me is do you do things today still with personal growth for yourself?
Oh, absolutely. So yes, I am in so I am in a CEO peer group that I meet with. I have a couple entrepreneur friends that we touch base very regularly, once a month at least. Just go over what's happening in your business, more informal than the CEO peer group. And then I use a business coach. So yes, and I read a lot of books, but actually I listen to a lot of books. I don't read them, but I'm in the car enough to where, and on airplanes enough that I listen to a lot of books. But all three of those things, I personally invest a lot of money into those avenues. Like I said, I have found it, like in the CEO peer group, to where, we're in these meetings and I'll hear something and don't even think it's really relevant to my business. And then 2 years later, I'll say, hey, I remember in that meeting 2 years ago, this guy did this, and now it is relevant to my business. And so sometimes I'll end up calling that person and say, hey, walk me through this, because I remember you went through this. What did you do? What were the hurdles that you ran into? And, we're all trying to do that, frankly. We're all trying to put our unique touch on it, but frankly, people have done this before, and getting that knowledge and getting that experience and whether you use it or not, learning what other people have went through is very valuable.
Yeah. And that's, we've seen that a lot of interviews we've done with highly successful people like yourself, where you don't know what you don't know, and you learn some things in these groups, and investing a lot of money into that. Everyone said that they spend a lot of money for that, and they get value back out of things like networking groups or CEO peer groups or masterminds and things like that.
I mean, it not only on the business side, honestly, on the personal side.
Yeah,
I think it's both. On the personal side, these people have become friends, and these people are going through or have gone through things that I'm going through that, frankly, I can't talk to my normal friends about, because they don't even understand what I'm talking about, And I mean, there are some days that I think most entrepreneurs say, you wake up and you're like, what in the world am I doing? and then there are other days where it's fantastic. And those days where you wake up and say, what am I doing? Why am I here? And, there are times where it helps to talk to somebody that's been through those days and weeks, because they certainly occur.
So, and on the lines of kind of your personal life, is your life better than you think it would be if you had stayed where you were back before you were 40? And how is your life now, and how is it better if it is?
That's a really good question. It's definitely different than it would have been. I think it's better just because I have more control over my life. I was, at the time, I was just wore out. I was traveling all over the world, and I just got to a point where I was thinking, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this for myself. I'm not going to do this for somebody else. And so it let me pick and choose a little bit on what kind of business we wanted to have, and how much how, our business today is focused pretty much in the United States. So I'm not traveling all over the world anymore. And I like that. I definitely like that better. I will also say and give credit to the company that I work for that I learned a heck of a lot from private equity. I learned, I had a CEO that I worked for that I repeat this line all the time. He used to say, "I will go anywhere in the world for a cup of coffee with a customer or a competitor," and he was dead right. I repeat that internally because we went to North Carolina earlier this week, and you just learn so much just talking to, even if they don't end up being customers.
Yeah.
The takeaway that you get into we were talking to a city manager of a small town that wanted lighting throughout the main street of the town, and so that experience will drive our business over the next 2 to 3 years, and a little bit that we're on this rocket ship going up, and if you change the direction 1%, you end up in a completely different place, right? And so those little 1% changes matter.
Awesome. So we're running out of time here, but how can our audience learn more about Haven Lighting or get in touch with you?
Yeah, perfect. So we have a website. It's havenlighting.com. We also have, you can look us up on Facebook, Instagram, all the social media platforms, or you can email us at havenlighting.com.
Awesome. Great stuff. Well, thanks, Chris. Our guest today has been Chris McCoy, who's the founder and CEO of Haven Lighting. Thanks so much, Chris. It's been great.
You bet. I enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Good Life, Great Life, brought to you by Brian Highfield. We hope you enjoyed listening to this week's guests and stories. If you like what you've heard, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts.